everybody. I want to welcome you back to another edition of the Printing Alive podcast with, you know it, another special guest, as all my guests are special. So today we have Elatia Abate, the futurist. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you? I'm so glad to be here.
I'm thrilled that you're here. So you are not my normal guest. I mean, you're normal, but as I explained,
Don't know about that.
okay, well, we don't know what normal is, but it's you're not like
Yeah.
the rest of us. Not that we're normal, and I'm certainly not normal.
Right.
But so I'm in the world of the print world, everything print, anything print, and that's usually what I have on here. But we have you on today because I've seen you a couple times and we've spoken a couple times, and I'm just wowed with the whole thinking and what it is you're doing. So before we start, just give us a brief, like a three-liner on, I mean, you can go four if you want, on what it is you do.
Yes. So the market would call me a futurist, which to me means going out to the edge of disruption. So looking at all the big things that are changing our world and disrupting how we do business and disrupting how we think about strategy and leadership, and translating those dynamics into tools, strategies, and frameworks that companies and people can use to create results right now.
And I think, so when I hear futurist, I thought card reader,
Yeah.
fortune
A lot
teller,
of people do.
right? I was hoping you were going to bring your crystal ball on, but I see you didn't.
Yeah, Ray Dalio actually has a great quote from his book, The Changing World Order. And I'm paraphrasing here, but it's something like, he who reads a crystal ball or something like that is destined to eat glass. And that's kind of how that works in this space of futurism. It is not about divination and much more around perception, pattern recognition, and then proactively creating a future that you want.
Cool. So this is actually pretty funny. Well, funny to me. You're a futurist and I'm in the printing world. And the printing world today, and some people probably get angry at me, but they all are, so it doesn't matter. But the printing industry is so backwards and slow to change, right? That's not to say that we don't have some amazing people and some awesome companies that are leading the charge and making the change and doing what they have to. But if I have to do it on a scale of 1 to 10, how many people are doing it's very low. So kudos to those of you that are. And I won't mention any names because I don't want to make anybody. I don't want to make the others feel bad. I'm not worried about them feeling good. It's the others, right? So I find in our industry, no matter what is happening, it is slow. If equipment technology is changing and it's very expensive for us to buy things, a lot of companies are very slow in question. Some are so slow that they wait too long, they're too late, but they don't know it and they still do it. Same thing with people. Some companies I talk to about AI, even though AI is exploding, although we should always note AI has been around for 20 years. We only heard about it 2.5 years ago as the average human. And now we're all experts and it's changing our lives, but there's a lot of people still who are fighting it or, looking the other way and don't want to get involved. We have owners that are 75 and 80 that have not relinquished any control of decision making. I'm not even talking shares or any of that, right? Just within the company. So, here we have you, futurist. What do you say when you start talking with people, when you start talking with companies about change that needs to happen?
Yeah. So the most critical thing that I think that I do is really help set the context and level for what's happening right now, or certainly what's happening right now as I perceive it through the lens of almost a decade of research and study and creating solutions for the big answers to the questions of the future of work and strategy. And because my sense is, and by the way, I don't think that print is in any way special in this sense of some folks are not paying any attention to AI, and some folks are really out at the cutting edge, and there are all kinds of folks in between. I think this is more prevalent or present than we might imagine. Certainly, oftentimes I walk into rooms where really smart people, and I am surprised by the lack of urgency around what's happening right now. So all of that to say, not so uncommon. And the reason that I got into this work as a futurist in the first place is that the size, scale, and scope of the velocity of disruption in our world is so great and is continuing to increase that if we don't figure out how to upgrade our thinking, our strategy, how it is that we do things, then fundamentally, at least from a business context, there's an expiration date on what it is that we're pursuing. And so by level setting context and demonstrating the degree of disruption that's occurring, what that means and what that impact is for business, not only like what is the risk that we're mitigating, but what is the upside potential that we're leaving on the table if we don't do this, then that sort of sets a level playing field. Because one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about in this conversation is eliminating the gatekeeping around it. Because AI, I believe, is and should be for everybody. And so the more we can make wherever anybody is today fine, the easier it is for folks to get on the on-ramp.
And not everybody has to carry everything themselves in a company.
Yeah.
I mean, from the young people out there, I think we've learned one thing. We don't need to work 5, 6, and 7 days a week because we're not on this planet to do that and spend 82% of our time working and 18% of our time find out how to be leisurely. I think it should be the other way around. And I think AI has given us the ability to potentially make some changes in our own lives and how we do it. So what would you say to people or to someone who has no idea what you're talking about, and you're talking to people, not companies, about starting to reflect and look at what they're doing and how they maybe start to make changes or the simple steps to take, because everyone talks sounds simple. Nothing is simple when it sounds it.
Yes, exactly. That's the beauty of like folks who are really talented at what they do, is distilling extremely complex stuff into understandable bites so that you can then start to get excited about diving in, and then the complexity doesn't quite seem as complex. So the basics are the following, right? If we think about how fast things are changing over time, and we can call this even the last 50, 60 years, the pace of change has shifted from centuries to seasons to seconds. And this is data that's pretty easily available out in the world, but it took the telephone 900 months, 75 years to get to 100 million users. It took ChatGPT as a tool 2 months to get to that many. And so that scope of differential in the speed of change is so enormous that we can't anymore just keep executing on whatever it is that we're doing to deliver today, and relegate innovation or future forward thinking to like that 1 week or 2 days at an offsite with leadership. The leadership tool that can help have access to this, or that can provide some access, is what I call simultaneous strategy. So it's the ability to do both now producing results focused work and future forward, future incorporated thinking at the same time. And whether that's an expansion of cognitive capacity or the kinds of folks who you have on your team who are able to do both at the same time, this again it sets you up to continue to take advantage of whatever has had your business be successful up until now, but also not be the dinosaur and lose out on the enormous opportunity that is unfolding around us.
So how many people, or what percentage of people do you find that you meet that could actually do both things at once?
It's a learned practice. I find, and it is available to everybody. So again, this is not like only some special group of folks are able to do this. I find that people who are best able to do this have some kind of experience either in improv comedy of some kind, like they've taken classes at Second City or Gotham or something. They've done some work around design thinking or user experience. So they've had to contemplate both, like, how is it that the world is shifting and what is it that's occurring right now? So those kinds of folks tend to be easily adaptable to this kind of work. Where I have found folks who have a little bit more challenge are people who are linear process thinkers. So I must have X in order to have Y in order to have Z. Or people who,
Those sound like the accountants.
yes, very much so, like operational folks who are operationalizing things, keeping the trains, on track and on time. And it's simply an additive to a way of thinking. It's not a replacement of that, because it is valuable. But that's, at least in my experience, that's where I've seen folks who are a little bit more easily inclined to that, and then folks who have a little bit more of a challenge. Oh, the other folks who have a real challenge with this tend to be either of the academic or the pessimistic type, and or both. Right? Academics are trained to look for what's wrong, right? In the design of arguments and the design, and rightly so for what it is that they do. But if you're always looking for what's wrong instead of what's possible, you're going to have a hard time adapting to some of the cutting edge future stuff that's out here.
That also just sounds so negative, always looking for what's wrong instead of just looking for
Yeah.
what's right. Right?
Yeah. Or even what's possible, right? And oftentimes when I run workshops, less in keynotes, because it's not exactly the dynamic for that. But what I do at the beginning is I create a set of, all the participants co-create some agreements that we're going to work with, like ways of working for our time together. And one of them is always getting curious and seeking the possible, as opposed to, again, what's wrong or how we've always done things.
Well, you gave me hope because just this past year I did two levels of improv. So
Yeah.
so now you gave me the motivation to continue and go do level 3.
Most valuable skill that I had my first experience with improv in high school, thanks to Jeff Crowley, my drama teacher. Shout out to Jeff. And by far and away, the most valuable set of skills that I have used throughout my career.
Well, if it does anything, it takes away that sense of vulnerability and insecurity. And, you're out there and you're starting off when you're practicing before you're in front of an audience. And, you're for anyone who watches Whose Line It Is Anyways, it's probably the most popular improv stuff done that you would know. And you're going out there and you're just, you're on the spot given something and then you're just kind of doing it. And what you learn is, you do what you want. It's up to the other people to think what they want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not doing it.
Yeah, and it's this dance of action, reaction, action, reaction. And as opposed to negating, right? So the first rule of improv is yes and. Whatever appears in the space, we agree that it's here, as opposed to saying the no but. And from that place, again, it sets the foundation for everything is possible. Like, of course, this absurd thing that we just talked about unfolded in front of us. Of course, there's an alien sitting in the room right now. Of course, there's an elephant sitting on your head. No matter how absurd it is, so you begin to see what's possible, even if you don't know how yet. And that's critical in the space of future and future forward strategy. Yeah.
And I think if the people sitting in the audience that are watching improv and laughing as they're there, I wish all of them would take that out when they go back into society and look at a lot of things in the same way. And then everyone wouldn't be as serious or critical at times when there's no need, right? Because when you do that, you end up building up this, I'll call it anxiety and stress all around you.
Yeah, because where that comes from is the need or the perceived need to control what's going on. Like, if I just hold tighter, if I just control these things more, if I just do this, then everything's going to be okay. And I'm going to be able to plan everything and the world's going to continue to be how I want it to be. And I just don't think that's the world that we're living in anymore. And in the face of this is another thing that I will often say at the beginning of my speeches. And you've heard me provoke this question before, that in the face of all of this change that's happening, we have this fundamental choice. And we can either ignore it or wish we could ignore it and say, why is this happening to us? And hide under the couch and hope that it all goes away. Or we can step into the much more effective and more empowering space and ask, given that this is here, given that this is happening, what do we want to create? And again, those are all rooted in improv kinds of questions and experiences that allow for possibility as opposed to sort of swirling around what's wrong.
And I take a lot of things that I've learned at COVID, because in COVID, it was new for all of us. We were all trapped, for lack of better, wording, unless maybe you lived in Florida and then you were
Yeah.
free to roam.
Yeah.
But I learned that there's nothing that important that you have to lose your mind over and make yourself sick and crazy. Everybody knows it. Everyone will wait if they have to. Break away from that first initial action to say, okay, tomorrow, right? The whole pleasing thing, to try to please, pull it back a little. And no one's going to kill you if, you don't do a certain thing on a certain day. You just have to know, like back then, today, to set the time that works for you, or the delivery date that you need to. Like when someone says, "Oh, could you deliver something on a Friday?" I'm like, "Are you working on the weekend, or is Monday okay?"
Yeah.
Why get the whole place running crazy on Thursday, Friday to pack and ship, when that company might work on the weekend and could do it and could ship it on a Monday and get out some other important stuff for other clients that are needed on the Friday? I think we've got a lot of priorities mixed up in what we do or how we think.
And that goes into that space of co-created agreements, right? Agreements versus expectations, and co-created agreements about how we work, being clear about what we're delivering and what are the resources that will take. And then being, there's something that I've learned over the years is that, people who are up to really big things, people who are creating stuff in the world, by function of the complexity of the things that are going on, are not always able to keep their word 100% of the time. However, you can honor your word. And that's really critical in strong communication. And a lot of that has to do with, like, what do you do when the world is getting disrupted this quickly and things are scary and seemingly moving very quickly and we need some space to make decisions? You can, instead of breaking your back to deliver on something that someone else maybe didn't even want anyway, being able to step into a position and say, I know I promised you X. This is what we're facing. Here are 3 ways that we could resolve for it. I want to ensure that we do it in a way that's best going to meet what you need. And so it's, in so many ways, the things that are strengths for helping us thrive in the face of all the disruption, and in particular the technological disruption, are rooted in really strong human interaction and connection.
And you said a key word that I think often gets overlooked and not done well, and that's communication, right? Something I've learned again and again and again, and probably will continue to keep learning, is, times when you don't say something because you're fearful or you're worried about what the response is going to be. 9.5 out of 10 times when you go and you actually get it out, even if it's a little late, the reaction is okay. But in our heads, we get so fearful about what the response might be, right?
Yeah.
Predicting what's going to be. And I try to tell people, don't predict. Like, I practice it myself. Don't assume.
Yeah. Yeah. You make up a fantasy about something that may or may not be true. And that's rooted in a whole thing. There's a great book. It's several years old now, but it's called Straight Line Leadership. It's written by this guy named Dusan Ducik. And one of the distinctions that he talks about in there is serving versus pleasing people. And, people pleasing it's a sneaky little thing that many of us have learned over time. But the funny thing about people pleasing is that on the surface, we are doing it to, we tell ourselves a story that we're doing it to make the other person happy. But really underneath it, we're doing it to soothe our own weirdness about whatever, right?
But we're not soothing. We're killing ourselves because it's not working.
And that's the even sneaky part of it, right? Is that it totally backfire. Well, sooner or later, that is a strategy that just doesn't work.
I just had that conversation yesterday with someone, something to do with me and responding to someone, and I was telling them how I responded, and they said, well, thoughtful response, but you need to stop pleasing. You did good, but it's going to have no benefit to you after.
Yeah.
right? So,
That's the, yeah.
and
That's,
I guess if I had the conversation yesterday and you're bringing it up today, I said somebody's sending me a real signal that that's important.
something to pay attention to. Yeah, for sure. For
So
sure.
I'm gonna have to make notes on that one and go back. But it's funny because I'm hearing it from a couple different people doing different things.
Mhm.
So when that happens, I'll talk only from the me. I have to go, wow, someone is sending a signal or
Yeah,
messaging that I need to grab onto that I will need to use going forward, right?
absolutely. I find that the universe whispers to us, and then it will start to communicate a little more loudly, and then it will start to shout. And in my experience, it's better not to wait for the flashbang. It's better to listen when the message is quiet.
You know, if I used mindset as a word in thinking, and you just said the universe, I used to listen to someone who always used to say, "I'm putting it out in the universe with a big, a big your hands up and a big call," and I used to laugh. And then a few years ago, when I went through some stuff, and then I started working to rebuild, the person I was working with, and still today, talked about the universe, talked about putting it out there, and it's a mindset thing because when I hit that point, I was as low can go, and I was doing anything to get up. And I started to like kind of say, okay, I'm putting it out there loud. I'm positive. I'm putting it, and not to be funny, but the energy that comes back really works. Along with the meditation and some breathing exercises that we all take for granted. Breathing, game changers.
Yeah, well, total game changers. And if you want to talk about, from the futurist perspective, like what are some of the leadership abilities and shifts that we need to make? You hit on the core of one of them, which is what I call business beyond the brain. And this is in response to something that I realized a few years ago, that the quantity of input that we're receiving is so enormous
And
that our brain just, our brains that evolved linearly and locally literally can't process it. We already don't consciously process most of the information that we're getting in. And so leadership shifts from a solely intellectual exercise to one that's fully embodied, and a place from which we're creating and leading and strategizing from a fully anchored position in our humanity. Yeah.
so, what do people do? Like we're talking and and it's good, get it. A lot of people listening or hearing these concepts, thoughts for the first time are probably going, what?
Yeah.
But even, so I go and I'm at a conference and I hear you and I hear others, and I'm like freaking out because this is just game changing, life lifting. And
Yep.
then I leave, and then I
Yep.
get home, and then I take my laundry out, and then I go to
Yep.
bed, and then I wake
Yep.
up, and then I'm trying to find that energy that I had
Yeah.
at the conference that I don't necessarily have right now because I'm alone and there's no one to look at and give them a
Yeah.
nudge and a high five and a whoa. What do we do?
Yeah. So the first thing, and what I attempt to do when I'm, speaking or working with folks, is even in the space of a keynote, provide some actionable questions or frameworks that you can, should one choose to, leave that day and start to implement with. But there's one of the leadership models that I've developed over time is something that I call regenerative resilience. And it's in the fit because why? Well, resilience just in general, Harvard Business Review and McKinsey and, Psychology Today, everyone's like, this is one of the biggest leadership things. Everyone should have it. But resilience is fundamentally exhausting. And especially when the disruption and change that we're facing is not going to end. It's just not. The game is not how do I wait to get back to normal and then reset myself. It's how do we take and channel this disruption into something that will help us grow and thrive, help our businesses grow and thrive, and in fact, energize us. So under the umbrella of regenerative resilience, there are three pillars to that framework. There's clarity, there's fearlessness, and there's connection. And under that umbrella of clarity, I can't tell you how powerful this is. It is first and foremost getting super clear about what it is that you want to create. And you've heard me ask these three questions before. What do I want to create? What kind of impact do I want to have? And how do I want to use my life or the life of the business? By answering those things, you know where it is that you're going. Even if it's not, I want, revenue X or position Y, you have a general sense of where you're going. The next layer of things is defining what you value. So what is it that you value about that destination? Is it the financial freedom? Is it the social impact? Is it the adventure? Is it whatever it might be for you? And having those two things then comes this clear piece of boundaries. Now you know what to say yes or what to say no to. Because anything, any conversation you're having, any action you're taking, any strategy you're planning is either aligned with the outcome that you're looking for or it's not. And that brings a sense of empowerment and excitement and clarity, really around what it is that you're creating. So that is probably, as we said earlier, it's like simplest meaning, I don't know how easy it is or not, but it's those three questions. It's defining the things that you value, and it's saying yes to what's aligned and no to what isn't. And you'll notice that in that sense of clarity, I didn't say what AI tool you should be learning how to use. I didn't say what software or business process one should be updating, because any tool that you're picking, any technology that you're going to invest in must be linked to these outcomes that you're looking to drive. And that will then help cascade into the more tactical, practical decisions around technology and training and that kind of implementation.
I think a lot of people have to go back to the drawing board and rethink the way they do things.
Yeah.
Right. Because even at the end, when you were saying, the software AI tool, I think a lot of people are thinking, what tool can I use to help change the way I'm thinking, which is backwards. And me and some others, I'm telling everyone, when you talk about AI, because some are talking like it's the holy grail, I'm saying refer to it as a tool only, a tool in your toolbox, and don't make it like the best tool, the biggest tool, or the only tool, right? Because there's still other processes and different steps people can take to do things. AI makes it a little easier, but it's not going to. What do they say? I mean, it's all new, so it's a new saying. If you're an expert using AI, it'll enhance what you do and make it more clarable. I don't know if that's a word, but it'll make it. I make up a lot of words. It'll make it easier for other people to understand. Yeah. Right. But if you are not an expert using AI and then you think you're an expert after, everyone's going to know you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is my perspective, in my opinion. Intelligence doesn't go away. Humanity doesn't go away. Strong strategic thinking and critical reasoning don't go away, especially in this phase that we're in right now of AI development and, as it's continuing to get smarter and better at what it does. Now, I do think it's critical to split the conversation between business fundamentals and then sort of AI from a more philosophical lens. Business fundamentals, and this is where so many businesses get stuck. So for those who are listening and you're like, how should I implement AI? Should I train everybody on ChatGPT or Claude or, whatever, fill in the blank.
By the way, this is going to be a mini clip because it's that important.
Going back to this, anything that you're going to train somebody on should be connected to a business outcome that you're looking to drive. Are you increasing revenue? Do you need to make your sales process more consumer friendly? Are your operations hitting a speed bump? If you have tactical problems that you can measure and use AI to help you solve them, start there and have it be linked to something that's actually going to drive something for your business value, as opposed to just like AI glitter, like let's just do whatever it takes. Now, the other split of this conversation, though, which is where the more futurist piece comes into play, is there are three levels with which one can think about AI. AI as a tool, AI as a collaborator, and AI as a consciousness. And it can be all three at the same time. But I find that parsing and thinking, particularly with the large language models that learn from our presence and interaction with them, that quality of interaction, if I am interacting with something as a tool, it is serving me, I am commanding and controlling. But if we are collaborating on something, then it's a different kind of experience or interaction. Or if we're two human beings collectively building something, there's an interdependence there, and human empathy piece that might be missing in some of the other spaces.
Well, yeah, the one thing with the AI is there is no emotion, right?
Yeah, yes, there
Yet,
is
yet, yet,
none.
yet.
And the research is telling us that it is capable of understanding cues of emotional intelligence. And the data is leaning toward we actually do get better results if we treat it kindly, even though it's economically, and as far as energy use is concerned, even though it costs more, the results that you're getting are better.
I started off using it going, please, thank you, and like as if I'm talking to my friend. And then I
Yeah.
heard somebody say, they're kind of asking you not to do that because it's using up the space, the tokens, and it's costing more. And then I'm thinking, that's not my problem. You put it out here, you created it. I'm going to make it what I want it to be.
Well,
Right.
yeah.
But
And if we think about even if, okay, let's just take a consciousness piece of a conversation out of it. If this is a tool that is interacting and learning with humanity, don't we want it to be biased toward the better qualities of humanity, which are treating each other with respect, which are, someone, I think one of the co-founders of Google, I don't remember who it was, but it's like bubbling out in the meme verse these days. And it's like, if you threaten AI, it'll give you better results. And like, okay, but over what period of time? Right. And because as human beings, I don't know if you've ever had a boss who is not, or worked with somebody who is toxic in that way.
oh God, no.
Right. Right. Like, sure, for a period of time, I will perform better under that kind of pressure, but at some point, burnout is coming. And so it really, I think, is a question of what is this world and future that we're looking to create? Do we want an AI and working environments, because AI will be colleague, coworker, who only respond to negativity and cruelty, or do we want an environment where we're speaking positivity into the space?
Yeah, well, always positive because negative doesn't get you anywhere.
It doesn't,
It
not, and
really,
not over the long term. Like
you
that's,
know, it's,
yeah.
I mean, even AI. So AI in one area that was great was, I have to write an email that was a nasty email because I wasn't happy. And I started off with all the F bombs and I knew I wasn't going to send that one, but I just let it go because it was therapy. And then I
Yep.
put it into AI and I just said, can you recraft this email to get this point across, not to make me sound negative, not to make me sound evil or revengeful. And then it put out this email and I'm thinking, oh my God, the new me.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this before. It's also a great tool for helping shape really difficult conversations. So if anybody is a recovering people pleaser, or you have to have a difficult conversation with anyone in your environment, I have found it to be an enormously useful tool to help shape conversations that are direct, that are powerful, that don't apologize for your position, but are still empathetic in their delivery. So I found it enormously useful for this kind of human
It also gives
interaction.
you things that you probably would not think about
Yeah, yeah,
ever on your own, that you think it's so simple that would come to your mind. It wouldn't even come close.
yeah,
I mean, at last year's Imagine, it was, and I'm going to get the names mixed up, but I think it was Adam Sack and Andy Brott, or Andy Brott and Adam Sack. What are
yeah.
those two fellas, right?
Uh-huh.
Really, really smart guys. And when they were up talking and they said, we're great as partners and we always get along, but every now and again we hit a roadblock and we turn to our third co-founder for help. And he was referring to chat. It's
Yep.
factual. There's no emotion. You still got to check it. And I thought from that day forward, I looked at it in a different way, the AI, for different, using for different purposes, because those guys are really smart. And if
Yeah.
they trust it, then I have to give it at least the chance to trust it and not be so skeptical and pessimistic about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And bringing one's own discernment to the conversation, right? This data that just came out from MIT that says that's talking about the cognitive debt which cognitive debt as they're defining it is, or as is defined, I guess, in general, because I had to look that up. I wanted to make sure that I was clear about
I
like
was going to
what
look it up after just from everything you just
yeah,
said,
like
but
what does it actually mean? But it's um as I read and understand it, it's essentially what happens when and you just get the answer, but you don't know how you got there, right? Like you guessed the right answer on a quiz. Hooray, you got the right answer, but you couldn't explain to me like these are the 4 steps that I would need to do for the actual problem solving. And this is one of those places where I think, especially in this interim time as the tools are developing, utilizing your own discernment and your own sense of reality and sensibility around quality and nuance inside of conversations is critically important. But use the tools, and this is different from also different from like way back in the day when Excel was first online, or PowerPoint or whatever, and it took a million thousand years to learn every nuance and start to, and there isn't, that barrier isn't there anymore. And what's so rich, and what I love about how you and I met, that there are so many really smart people in many all industries who are utilizing and discovering and on the hunt for AI tools that are used in interesting and creative ways. And so it's fun to not know how to do everything yourself, because then we get to reach out to each other and say, hey, I've been working on a problem. Are you using anything that helps solve this kind of problem? Do you know anybody who's using this kind of thing? And the community and connection and creativity strengthens.
well, that was like at the Imagine AI conference. That was what was amazing because there was not, okay, maybe it's one, but there was really not one person in that whole ensemble of people who would not turn to the person beside them and ask them something. Where I'm sure, like me, have experienced at a lot of other conferences, people don't talk
Yeah.
to anybody.
This is one of the things, and plug to our community at Imagine AI Live. This is one of the reasons why I love being a part of it so much, is this collective sense of discovery and exploration and care and caring for other people. The first day of the conference this year, the gathering this year, was all of these workshops where people were sharing how to do many things.
No secrets.
No secret. And that goes back to this notion that we talked about earlier of like no gatekeeping. I love this about this community. And it really, speaking of the things that like you leave the conference like, but well, how are you still jazzed about the things? That connection, which again, you'll notice is another human, very human piece of it, is what makes the ongoing work not only possible, but, like keeps the excitement and the fuel underneath it.
I'm on a chat group, a WhatsApp group with like the founding members and a bunch of the founding members, some speakers, and I mean, what is it? 3 weeks ago, there's chat every day. It's a birthday, or somebody did something, or went somewhere, or Alex was from Vegas. He went to I think the Google conference or something, and then he ended up in Chicago with Steve and Dave and Vince and everything, and now he's back in Rome, and he was going to Germany. But it's all on there. We all know. Actually, I have Alex coming on the podcast on Friday. So I want to try it. Well, he's amazing for teaching, right? So I want people to pick up on him to get more comfortable with how easy it is it's easy once you listen and understand a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
And the great thing about one of the things that I really appreciate about the space and just of AI, and particularly the large language models and the tools that you can interact with, there's a lot of space for experimentation. And if you don't know how something is working or why something is working the way it's working, you can ask, so why did you give me that answer? What do you think makes this a strong answer or a strong solution? And where might you see there being some challenges or holes in the argument that you presented to me? So you can go learning together with it, which for me, as someone who is a very intellectually curious person, I find that co-learning dynamic really exciting.
Well, I'm loving with the AI, and I love now that you get to do speak because you don't have to type everything, so it gets a little easier. Um, I'm having conversations about just different things, not even realizing that I'm going in. It's a conversation that a half hour's passed, and I've asked a couple things, and then it asks me things to to work on what it's the answers it's giving me and expanding on
Yeah,
it. And then I'm like,
yeah,
oh my God,
I know.
nobody ever has to be alone anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and it can be an enormous enrichment. And my philosophy around this is that AI is really a human empowerment technology. Um, and as we move through this conversation, something that we've sort of touched on lightly as we move along, it is not something to abdicate all responsibility of all the things and the stuff too.
Never.
However, it is a great support and can be a great creative partner and a great, yeah, so great for so many things. Productivity partner. Yeah.
I mean, I put in a lot of stuff in that I do, so it kind of learnt me, right?
Mm-hmm,
Not a
mm-hmm,
lot, more people know that it could learn you. You put in stuff you've done, you've written. I mean,
mm-hmm.
now I put in something. I got to write a letter instead of, I say make it sound like me. It starts off with hey instead of dear. So
Yeah,
I'm like, no,
yeah,
no, no.
yeah,
You need to make it more professional. Can't say
yeah, yeah,
hey.
totally.
But even that makes it when I'm reading, looking, I'm going, oh my God, I'm understanding me a little better, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
understanding how someone doesn't understand what I'm saying because now that I'm seeing it in writing, I don't understand what I said.
Yes, and it can be an enormously helpful tool for that kind of self-reflection. And even I use it a lot for marketing, messaging, and positioning. And so to your point, I've given it a lot of information about who is my target audience and what are the things that they care about and what are their pain points. And so the things that we create together are addressing the audience that I'm looking to address.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's great. So I'm encouraging everybody. I'm encouraging everyone to use it, but I'm encouraging everyone to pay for it. I keep saying that every time I talk about AI. Pay the $20, give up a coffee, give up a double vodka with soda. It's so worth it. You get the robust version. You're in your own secure place. If you're using the free version, everything you put out there is for everybody else.
Mhm.
There was one company, print company, that was cheap, and the fella put his entire data, his financials for years, everything up there. I only wish I
That's
knew the name so I can go check it.
yeah,
But the story's scary.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there's people that I've chatted with and I go, do you pay? And they go, no. And I tell them why and I watch them go white.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you bring up a really critical point around, and I don't know that this is a conversation to go really deeply into ethics and data privacy. However, as folks are, to your point, as folks are beginning to utilize tools, understand, especially if you're using the free version, that any data that you're putting in is being used to train the tools and models. So let's say first pay the $20, 100% agree with you, Warren, like absolutely. But second, if you're going to dump, let's say you're going to dump a contract language in to see where there might be holes or something like that before you spend the several hundred or $1,000 an hour for the attorney, scrub it of your
Names.
name, of dollar amount, of addresses, of all of this stuff, so that it's even in the paid version. Um, you don't have
Well,
your
that's
proprietary.
just right. But that's also just being smart and not dumb with your bank card and passwords and certain
Yes,
things.
yes,
Don't get
yes.
lazy and stupid is really the bottom line, right?
Yeah,
Because some things
on
there
the,
is no better way to say it
yeah, yeah,
than
exactly.
to go and do it straight. And there's so
Mhm.
many people out there that oh my God, that are doing that, and other people are benefiting from it, right?
So just be,
Wow, so much
yeah,
stuff. I mean, there's so many things that come just from one little conversation that it branches off, and then if you touch the AI, it goes sideways. So let's go back to the future.
yes, ooh, yeah,
Yeah, it's like, oh, that was a movie, right? Back to the Future.
yeah.
It's like you were ahead of your time. If we go back to the future, what would you just suggest? A couple simple ways for people maybe to just start putting themselves in a new place so that they're ready to grasp some things that are coming. And what I say to everybody's not like I talk to that many people, but what I what I want people to do is to open up to start hearing. Right? I'm telling
Yeah.
people, yes, you don't use AI, yes, you don't like it, but see what it is, know what it is. Don't be ignorant in a conversation about it when it's all around.
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, there's the basics, right? So don't skip over the tech column of whatever your favorite, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Economist, Financial Times, whatever it is that you're reading. Don't skip over that part. Even if you are skimming, have a look at what's happening out there. The major consulting firms, KPMG, Deloitte, McKinsey, PwC, there are all kinds of free reports that you can get about the impact of AI in industry X. You don't need to spend gajillions of dollars. The information is there. So first, just go out and start exploring what is possible impact. But then secondly, and this is an analog tool that I invite you to use, but I think of it as a kaleidoscope. We mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that the speed of change has moved from centuries to seasons to seconds, which means if we're thinking about strategy in a world where change was happening at a velocity of centuries, you could do a 5-year strategic plan and not have to look up while you were executing against it until the 5 years were over. But now things are moving so quickly that the quality of strategic questions that we're asking needs to shift. And so if you're to ask 3 basic questions, one that is traditional, sort of, I call it linear strategy, one that is a future-led strategy, and another one that is a sort of a present-focused question, these 3 things together, it's like a kaleidoscope. So the same kind of information is in there, but every time you twist the end of it, you get a new sort of pretty picture, which is the same with your strategy. So the first question is, what can we logically do with what we've already done and what we already know? This is, if you're thinking about budgeting, this is like, okay, next year's budget is going to be 10% over last year's, like that kind of thinking. But it's like, what can we project forward from the data that we already have? The future focused question asks, given that we're here, free of constraints of the past, what do we want to create? And then you pull that future into your present by acting toward it. And then the third question is, right now in this very moment, what's emerging all around us? What's emerging in our clients and our customers, inside of our organization, in the technology that's here, the geopolitical landscape. And those 3 questions together can help you see how much strategy has shifted, where some of your blind sides might be in terms of thinking about what will be unfolding for your business or industry as these next several months and years are unfolding. And it will give you both an opportunity to mitigate some risks and really seize some exciting opportunities that are here on the horizon.
Wow, sounds easy, but again, it's not that easy, right? But I think it's definitely. I think
happy to help you do it.
yeah, no, but I think people should take an hour or two, do the exercise, sit down, write down their thoughts, then maybe take it, throw it into AI, ask it to help it to enhance it, maybe to put it in a everything that I do with every task thing I do with AI, I ask it to lay out the task.
Yes.
Not that I'm using it, lay it out, give me the order. How do you think I should approach it? Right? Not that I always follow it or ever, but I ask it just to know, because by asking it, seeing it, reading it, it's going into my mind. And it might not be used at this moment, but over the years, I've learned about the subconscious too a lot, which is another 4-hour podcast on, right? Because that's what controls you and makes you crazy and gets you in trouble every time. But everything is it's just, and the AI thing has just made it easier to absorb some of it because it gives it to you in point form and it gives it to you without the fluff.
Yeah. And it can give it to you in a table format, and it can say, you can ask it to compare the quality of the answers and, what's missing and what are the strengths of each of these perspectives. And so all that does is strengthen your ability to design strategy, to evaluate strategy, and then to go ahead and execute on it.
Wow. So if you had to make a list, like you gave us 3 things, but not the subs, give us a list 1 to 5, whatever you think are main things to do, not the subs. So sit down, think about where you want to be. Or
yeah, okay. So first, just if you've been skipping over articles on AI because you have been assuming that this is something that you're just going to wait and see on, stop doing that and read the articles. Okay, so that's like 101 basics. So get you on the ground floor.
by the way,
But
could they take the article, put it in AI, and get the summary version, perhaps, if they have a short attention span?
They could also do that. And if we're still suspicious of AI, then just read the damn article.
Or put it in another language model.
Yeah, or put it in another language model. So that's the first thing. Second thing, it's 3 basic questions. What do I want to create for myself and for my business? What kind of impact do I want to have myself and my business? And how do I want to use my life and or the life of the business? These 3 questions, when I tell you the power of these 2 questions and their ability to generate value, if you not only answer them, but then move forward to act on them, it's off the charts.
Wow. Okay, I don't want to confuse anybody with anything else. I'd like to kind of leave with them having the 3 questions. I will put those 3 questions in the write-up when I post the podcast.
Yes.
Right. And then I would just tell anybody, if you want, reach out to me and I could kind of help you when I get the information from the other side.
Absolutely.
But wherever
Absolutely. People can think of those 3 questions under the concept of what I call future-led strategy. Right. So if you want to create a future-led strategy, it's what do I want to create? What kind of impact do I want to have? And how do I want to use my life and the life of the business?
I mean, a future, everyone's doing that. They might not call it a future-led strategy, but when the bank says we need your forecasts and we need your cash flows, same thing. You're predicting the future to somebody. AI just made all that stuff a lot easier, right? Yeah. But everything is, I think the wording got a lot cleaner today when we talk about looking at the future, instead of making it sound so, I don't know, all over the place and cumbersome. Yeah. So it's pretty.
Yeah, for me, that's the magic of what I get to do, is help distill all of the chaos into things that make what's happening accessible so that we can be empowered to make better decisions.
And there is a lot of stuff happening.
There is a lot.
And piling up. I mean, I'm into the whole AI thing, and I can't read what I get because it's too much. And then I don't know if I get the rundown report every morning, which I'm probably 3 weeks behind in catching up on it because everything is changing so quickly. But at least I glance it and then I hear things. And if there's a conversation somewhere, I'm not feeling left out of the conversation because I know what's going on. So it's pretty cool.
That's all it. Good. Step number 1 is read the stuff.
Yeah, well, it's always read the stuff, right? I'm just thinking if only they had AI back when I was in school, I'd probably have a few more degrees, maybe. Or okay, maybe one degree. We'll just start with 1 before we get on to the second. Okay, if people want to reach out to you.
Yes. The best way to do that, well, if you're interested in continuing or following parts of this conversation, the place where I play the most online is on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me there. And then my website is my first and last name.com. So elatiaabate.com. And you can just send me a note there and I would be happy to continue the conversation.
Just to avoid traffic to your website, too much traffic, is there anybody, what's the brackets within which the types of different people, like is it the small company or is there a minimum? Like I don't want anyone calling you unexpected, to be rejected in a nice way, or
no, there are clarifying questions in the ways to reach out to me, so no one needs to worry about that, and no question is too foolish.
Well, you know what? That is so true, because I remember all my teachers in school saying there is no bad question. I only wish I asked questions then. I ask a lot of questions now, but I didn't ask them then. Now I'm good. Now I'm good to ask them, right? So, brilliant. Wow. So before we go, any final words to my millions of listeners I wish I had?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, I believe that this is the most exciting time that we have ever had as humanity. And we can create a compelling, abundant future for everybody if we partner together in collaboration and community and with the very technology that's changing everything.
Love it. And all said with a smile. Wow. So first of all, Elatia, I want to thank you for your time and for everything that we've discussed, because I think the people listening, most of them might not have ever had an opportunity to maybe hear you or hear the topic of the discussion. To others listening, I really, really hope you made it this far. If you did make it this far, recommend this particular podcast, and the series, of course, but this one in particular, to other people that you know, so that they could hear, they could listen in their car, they could be relaxed when they listen, and they don't have to be. I don't want everyone freaked out about AI, because it really, you got to use it for its benefit, not for its, to make you crazy, and the other side of it.
Exactly.
Wow, we're going to have you back again, because this is a conversation that doesn't end. I want to encourage everybody to keep thinking about the future. I want to encourage people to be thinking about change. If you're not making any changes, you are in big trouble. I'm not saying make big changes, but keep making little ones, even, so that you got the momentum and you keep the momentum going. I'm going to end it with that, just by saying thank you for listening. Appreciate all the viewers. Ideas, as always, let me know. I'm still waiting for people to call me. If you want to be on the podcast, call me. You can reach me in 100 different ways. Uh, all that to say, thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time. Elatia, again, thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll see everybody back here soon.